All right, great. Well, Alex, I will hand it over for you to kind of kick us off and share case study with us. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Alex. It's good to be here with everybody today. Uh, give you a little bit of background about myself. Been uh, doing pest control for the last 6 years. I work with a family-run company in New Orleans. My dad started Paramount Pest Management in 2005, just before Hurricane Katrina. So we've been in business a little over to be 20 years this year. He's been in pest control for about 30 years, but like I said, running Paramount for the last 20 of those. Um, we really got into bed bugs in a niche, specialized sort of way. After the hurricane, we had a lot of workers from out of town come in, just a really big influx of traveling people through the city. Uh, and it really pushed the volume of people, and because of that, bed bugs. And so we started specializing in bed bugs. Our treatment from when we first started doing it to now has definitely evolved quite a bit. Uh, but we feel like we've developed a pretty effective way of handling bed bugs, and then, but not only effective, but in a less intrusive way than what maybe anybody else has been exposed to in the past. So, does anyone here already have experience dealing with bed bugs from like a more traditional sense, like heat treatment or uh, chemical treatment, anything like that? If you do, you may be familiar. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, I'll just say I have a unfortunately personal experience from about 10 years ago or so, and we had a traditional team come in and it was a pesticide treatment plus bagging our all of our things and or putting them through the dryer cycles and things like that. And then a whole slew of additional follow-ups and fogger type treatments that we did on our own to continue to
Yeah.
make sure everything was gone.
Yeah, and so that's really typical. So like the traditional school of thought is, and it's not wrong. It's that heat, above 120 degrees, 130 degrees for a certain amount of time will kill bugs. And a lot of chemical is heavily regulated in the sense that it can't be put onto people's clothes and sheets and stuff that's going to come in contact with their skin. And so, a dryer can be a really effective tool in fighting bed bugs. And that's kind of where I wanted to start. Anything that can be run through a dryer on the highest heat possible is, yeah, that's 100% effective in killing bed bugs. It's the CDC recommends 30 minutes on the highest heat setting for your dryer, but we usually, if it has an hour-long setting, we're going to run it for the whole hour just to be extra sure. So that's with anything that we deal with. That's people's personal items. That seems to be the biggest like sticking point is uh, effective preparation of a treatment area. So if we're talking about treating, a one-bedroom apartment and it's chock a block full of stuff, there's no there's no remedy for housekeeping. Like housekeeping has to be a part of your treatment plan from the beginning. And Ms. Dawn, I'm sure we'll talk about this a little later on. But integrated pest management is what is a term that you'll hear here, and then throughout. If you talk to anybody about an effective treatment for bed bugs, integrated pest management, all that means is that we're using all the tools at our availability, including and not limiting ourselves to chemicals, but more than that, housekeeping. You're looking at like resident reporting and monitoring, glue stations, anything that where we're not just looking to flood an apartment necessarily with chemicals, because where some of those are going to kill bed bugs, a lot of them are going to be harmful to the residents as well. So we want to be careful and considerate about what chemicals you're using, how you're combining them, and the amount that you're applying them in. A lot of them are regulated to be only applied every 14 days. So I'm just going to walk you through a little bit about our process specifically of what we do. And if you have any questions, about specifics, I'll take those here in just a couple minutes. So what we do on from an initial basis starts with inspection. So we want to confirm that there are active bed bugs, just because you get a handful of reports every now and then about anything something's biting them. Their immediate thought is I have bed bugs. Well, that's not always the case. So we want to get a technician in there to identify what's going on and confirm that it actually is bed bugs. There's a couple of different ways we can do that. Number one, obviously, would be finding a live bed bug. Number two, you can look for the fecal matter that the bed bugs leave. It looks kind of like an ink dot from a pin. If you apply water or anything wet to it, because it's just dried blood, it'll run. So if you're looking at something and you're not sure that it's fecal matter, if you wet it and it runs, then you can be sure that it's fecal matter. It's blood that's been pooped back out by the bed bug. Just as an aside, uh, a lot of people, there's a fear around bed bugs in the sense that they spread diseases or anything like that. Bed bugs are a vector for no known disease for anything that humans can carry. So if a bed bug bites you and then goes and bites someone else, or bites someone else and then bites you, you can't get any kind of disease from that bed bug. There's nothing transferable. And so we would say they're not a vector for disease. But so moving forward with the inspection, we're common places we're going to check are anywhere that you're going to hang out. They're not going to be very far from where people are sitting, where they're hanging out, where they're sleeping. That's how they got their name, bed bugs, right? So we're checking the bed, but not just the mattress. We want to look at skirting, box springs, the cheesecloths on the bottom of box springs. Those generally have to be pulled off. The folds in couches and cushions and pillows. Another uncommon deal that we see, or it's not uncommon, but it's a difficult case to diagnose and to treat, is the drop ceilings. In some places that have the false ceilings, they'll go up in between those cracks and you can't see them. So you have to move those ceiling tiles to inspect above that drop ceiling. Seen them in places like kitchens and bathrooms, but usually that's going to be a more extreme case. What we're focusing on, especially for an initial report of bed bugs, you're going to see them where the people are living and hanging out the most right off the bat. So it's living room and bedroom. Once we have confirmed that it's bed bugs, this is when we move into working with our management team. So whoever's on the property, we want to coordinate with them to make sure that the resident understands that this is, number one, a serious problem, because bed bugs spread just like a disease from person to person. So you have people over your house, you go over someone's house, you ride the bus, you're on the movie theater, a restaurant, whatever. It's not an indication. Bed bugs aren't an indication of cleanliness or filthiness. It's they infect the clean and dirty alike. So we want them to understand that, hey, during this time, you need to limit your access to where you're going, who's coming over to your house, because in a shared community like this, people coming in and sitting down on a couch that has bed bugs in it, and then they go back to their house. Well, now you're spreading this problem where it wasn't necessarily an infestation before. Now it's across multiple apartments. So working with the management, we want to communicate to the resident that we have identified the problem, and that we're very not emphatic, but just we'd really like them to stay as isolated as possible during that treatment time. So again, we talked a little bit about preparation before this. When we set up a date for a treatment, we are looking for the best preparation going into it that we can. So that really, and I'm going to read this comment in just a second from Mr. Doug. I haven't read it yet, but I want to address that in just a second. So when we go in for preparation, we want to get like we were talking about with the dryer, anything that can be put through a dryer, bagged up, sent that way. Sometimes the resident is able to do that. Sometimes we run into situations where they are unable, because we're dealing with senior citizens. Sometimes they're unable to do all of that kind of stuff for themselves. And it can be a big undertaking to say, hey, I need you to go through 20 years of stuff that you've piled into these drawers and figure out how to get it all out in a timely manner, washed and dried. So it's something that we started doing as a company is going in and offering a service to do the prep work with them as well. So we'll go through and do any laundering that we can. We'll go through and declutter, do all the stuff that, because bed bugs hide in it every nook and cranny. The treatment process, whether it's a heat treatment or a chemical treatment or whatever, it has to be able to reach all of those really minuscule, minute places that a bed bug's going to hide. Their bed bugs are similar to roaches in the sense that they can be thigmotactic. They like to feel, that's just a fancy word to say, they like pressure on their front and back. It makes them feel hidden. So when they feel like they're hidden, because they don't have eyes like us, when they feel like they're hidden from predators, they feel safe. So they're going to get into those really tiny places where they feel like nobody can see me. I'm away from anything that can hurt me, which just adds to the challenge of trying to treat them, because they've evolved in such a way that they are very good at what they do. So moving forward from preparation to treatment, we want to make sure, obviously, that if we're doing a chemical treatment, we want the resident to be out of the apartment for 4 hours. We use an atomizing system where we're taking nothing that's uncommon. These are all regulated pesticides, of course, but they're not restricted use pesticides. We try to use the safest, least harsh chemicals that we can that are still going to be effective against the bed bugs. So we've used a combination of 3 different chemicals. One is an adulticide that kills bed bugs on contact. One is a growth regulator that stops stops bed bugs from reaching sexual maturity where they can't reproduce. And then the third chemical is a residual chemical that once we go in and treat and that stuff dries, it leaves behind a residual that is a controlled release. It breaks down over time. And so when, let's say, a bed bug is reintroduced to that environment off of the resident scooter, or someone else that maybe where they were infected from the first time comes and sits back down on that couch, the bed bug will get into that residual chemical and it'll kill them. Something that we've started doing in the past few years that has set us apart from chemical treatment is we're using a myco-insecticide. This treatment is completely separate from chemical treatment. And basically what it is, it's a fungus that grows on the bed bug and it's spreadable. So it's like a disease for them that they can spread from bed bug to bed bug. So they can come through it, bring it back to a colony where there are multiple bed bugs hiding, where they're laying eggs, that kind of thing. And this fungus continues to grow. It's got active live spores in it that'll grow on these bed bugs. And it'll wipe them out. Of course, it's not as fast acting as a heat treatment or a chemical treatment, but we have found that it's been more effective across a long-term scale. So, and I'll put some information about that after I'm done talking in the chat for anyone that wants to look that up. You can share that with your pest control provider, and maybe they can look into doing it for you. But anyway, the myco-insecticide is a perimeter treatment that's number one. It's less chemical exposure to the resident. Number two, it's less invasive. So you're able to treat the furniture and the place. You're not getting into every crack and crevice because you're wanting the bed bug to just crawl through it. It doesn't necessarily have to be sprayed directly on them like a chemical treatment, but it just needs to be in their vicinity. And so as long as you've got a continuous barrier of that around the room, you can count on that, like everyone, to come out and feed, they're going to have to go through that barrier of fungus, and then it gets on them and grows, and basically it just envelops them and they die. This isn't something, it's odorless. There's no long lasting effect to the resident. Like once this stuff is down and dried, no one can tell that it's there. So we've really started using that in the last 2 or 3 years and found a lot of really good success with it. The last thing that I'd like to talk about is post-treatment inspection. So the biggest thing that I think has led to success for us has been post-treatment inspection. A lot of companies are going to come in, treat, and disappear. It's getting back a hold of someone to come out and look at it again, or anything along those lines is like the most difficult part of a bed bug treatment. A lot of people think, hey, we went in, we sprayed, you're good to go. But follow-up treatment seems to be the most effective way for long-term control. And what I mean by that, so for like if you're doing a chemical treatment, it has a 14-day window where you can't spray. So setting up an appointment in those 14 days to come to follow back up and say, hey, are there live bed bugs still moving in this apartment? If there are, okay, what areas do we need to retreat? And staying on. So what I'll give you the flip side of what happens without an inspection. You come in and treat, whether it's a heat treatment or a chemical treatment or a myco-insecticide treatment. You're going in to treat, and once you're done with that treatment that day, say, hey, thanks, see you later. You come back in 3 months and the place has been just reinfested with bed bugs. Well, we could have caught that at the 14-day mark, the 1 month mark, 2 month mark, but without those re-inspections and follow-up treatments, now you've allowed bed bugs to, let's say, for instance, if it's a chemical treatment, to develop a resistance to the ones that did survive. They're now developing a resistance to that chemical that you put in there, and that makes it even more difficult now for you or the next person that's coming in to try to take care of that problem. So again, that's what we've found, that follow-up treatment or follow-up inspection, not necessarily treatment, but follow-up inspection is the most important part of a bed bug treatment. So if anybody has any questions or comments, I'd like to stop for just a second. I'm going to add some of that to the chat about the fungi, the myco-insecticide, and I can answer any questions too.
Alex, thank you so much. I appreciate all of that information, and thanks for going through the different steps. In terms of just prevention measures, do you have any advice for communities in terms of what they should be, practices or habits they should be taking regularly, encouraging their residents to take regularly just for preventative measures to, reduce the likelihood of having bed bugs within their home or community?
Yeah. So number one would be you're if if you've heard, that you're going, if someone in your community has bed bugs, for your other residents, I know you can't just like put out a blast and be like, hey, this unit has bed bugs, because you have people run amok with fear and rumors and all this kind of stuff. But keeping problems isolated seems to be the main, would be my main concern from a property standpoint. So if you have a unit that has bed bugs, that doesn't mean that all of the units need to have bed bugs. So keeping that problem isolated from other residents, and I know you can't. It's basically they're going to spread by, they have to be picked up and brought somewhere. They don't just magically appear somewhere. So yeah, by contact. And so isolating, once you have a problem, keeping it as small as possible is key to, basically, we have some properties that we call them ant colonies. The elevator shaft and the floors are ant colony. You got people just constantly going up into other people apartments and walking and sitting here and there and everywhere. And it just, that issue just balloons, where you had one problem and now you have 15 problems. Another thing is to educate the residents on, number one, what bed bugs look like. Early identification obviously is important. We don't want to wait and let a problem fester, because that leads to bigger problems, worse infestations. And then educating the residents on how bed bugs are spreading, like common places that they pick them up. So if they're going out of town, traveling, hey, when you come back home, check your suitcase, check your clothes, get your stuff right in the washing machine and dryer. If you're on public transportation, check yourself regularly. Inspection is like, that's the only way that you prevent like big issues and big infestations is, early warning and education about how bed bugs spread. So it has got to be physical contact, right? That's the only way that you're going to get bed bugs, is if you went somewhere or someone came to you, the bed bugs came with you or them. They're not going to come from outside. They're not going to, fly in and parachute into your apartment, it's they have to be picked up somewhere and brought back. So I know a lot of properties that do like in the laundry areas or common areas they have like resource posters where they'll hang up a poster and say, hey, this is what bed bugs look like. These are common places to pick them up, whether it's public transportation or travel, your suitcase on a bus, plane, restaurants, movie theaters. This is what bed bugs look like. This is how to identify fecal matter. This, you can wet it, tell if it's blood, that kind of thing. You're looking for cast skins. And that's, I'd say just education and early identification of the problem is the best way to prevent and handle something from ballooning.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah,
For some great tips there too, to just kind of post and make folks aware. And laundry rooms are a great place, common areas. Yeah, thank you so much. Any other questions in the chat? Doug, thank you so much for your comments there, particularly around the heat versus chemicals.
and one last aside to that too. I realized I said I was going to address that and then forgot. So a lot of times, so they're at Metairie Manor, and Miss Dawn will talk about this in a second. They were doing heat treatments before we started with the chemical treatments, and the thing you have to be careful about, like especially when you're talking about pulling things out of an apartment and bringing them to an area specifically to be heat treated, is again precaution. You want to make sure that you're not taking that stuff and just dragging it down the hallway and spreading them and dropping them. You want to make sure that when you take all this stuff out of the apartment to be heat treated, the apartment itself still needs to be heat treated, because they'll get into baseboards, like we we're talking about the drop ceilings, that kind of thing. So it's just integrated pest management is super, super important in the sense that you can't just rely necessarily on one tool to take care of the problem. You have to address each situation as its own individual problem and say, okay, this is what's going on here. And we found with bed bugs as a whole, you have to treat the entire problem. So even if you're having a problem, let's just say in the recliner, well, hey, we're going to come in and once we've identified that there are bed bugs in this apartment, we need to make sure that we treat, we touch everything in here, whether it's via heat, via chemical, via that myco-insecticide. Don't, spot treatment can be effective for some pests some of the time, but bed bugs is generally not one of those things, in the sense that you want to hit them hard and heavy. Once you know you have a problem, you want to get on that treatment plan as soon as possible and make sure that it's a comprehensive plan that doesn't just target one specific thing in the apartment. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Alex?
I see one in the chat too about, keeping themselves safe. So a lot of misconception around bed bugs. People think that they can fly or jump or anything like that. They have to crawl. So for what we tell the staff generally, shoe covers is a great way to make sure that you're not stepping on anything. It's coming off of your shoes. And if you're having to handle the furniture looking in there, gloves. Other than that, gloves and shoe covers, as long as you're not sitting down in the apartment and rubbing up against the stuff that you're having to deal with, you're going to be good to go. Now, in a case where maybe the staff is having to do the laundry, there you go. Like if it's a hoarder, you want to take some more, like if you're having to do the prep, you want to take some other precautions. So either if you're in a place where you're in scrubs where that stuff can come off and go right in the wash, or if you're in just like a uniform and you need that stuff to be protected, putting on disposable suit that you can take off once you're done in that apartment. Definitely, again, because it's physical contact that spreads them, you're just anything that you come into contact with in the apartment, you want to make sure that it either gets washed and dried or disposed of. But the bed bugs won't, they can't jump on you, they won't fly on you. So again, just in terms of interacting in an apartment that you know has bed bugs in it, generally gloves and shoe covers are going to be your best friend. Shoe covers, especially because as you walk on, whether it's carpet or rugs or whatever that have bed bug, maybe that could have a possibility of bed bugs. You don't want them to get in between the grooves of your shoes and that kind of thing. And so shoe covers can definitely be an easy way to make sure that that's in the case of a hoarder, that is a super difficult situation that, again, post inspection is going to be like the biggest deal. So anything that can't be removed from the apartment or that the resident refuses to remove from the apartment, that's where we've really found that mycoinsecticide allows us to apply a perimeter around that stuff. And if bed bugs come out of it, they get into that mycoinsecticide and it, they're able to infest, or that mycoinsecticide is able to spread to other bed bugs that maybe didn't initially walk through that perimeter band. So, and again, I'm gonna share all of that in comments. The name of the chemical and I believe I have a contact for who you can get a hold of or who you can. You have to be a pest control provider to order the chemical, but you can share that information with your pest control provider. Yes, the inspection, the dogs, if you have access to a bed bug dog, that is an incredible tool. We're a smaller company and we don't have one, but we've talked about bringing one. That is, I've seen some clips of some working, and that is an incredible tool. Like I said, a little more niche, a little more hard to find, but if you can find somebody that has one for in terms of identification, incredible. The only thing that's I would say about the bedbug dogs is I couldn't tell you if they are specific to finding live bed bugs or if you go into an apartment that's already been treated that had a problem previously that maybe has bed bugs in it. Is the dog still going to alert to that? Say that there's a problem when really it's just the remnants of a previous problem. So that's going to be cautious about that. Anything else?
Thanks, Alex. And I have heard of, communities in severe cases allowing staff members to, wash clothes before they leave in at the laundry, leaving clothes there to to change before going home. Again, I think the shoe covers is a um, great suggestion as well. Um, yeah, can you talk a little bit more about just the strategies to help reduce the stigma and really fear around when bed bugs are discovered, in terms of like how long this could last, how, that kind of thing, just kind of reducing that fear that people do have, because I know it's a huge concern.
Yeah. And so I think that the a lot of that comes from because obviously it's a blood-sucking insect and it's biting you. A lot of that, the stigma behind having bed bugs is, oh, you're nasty, uh, you're letting a problem fester, and that's not necessarily the case. So the easiest thing to like communicate with people that well, here actually, can you want me to address more like the resident side or the management side?
Both would be great.
Okay, so in terms of like controlling fear among residents and staff alike, I think like what we talked about before, information is kind of your power there. You have the ability as the staff to be the educators for the residents to kind of let them know, hey, this is what a bed bug looks like. So number one, you're cutting down on false reports. Everything once you kind of have that fear that there might be bed bugs, everything in my experience, everything that moves then turns into a bed bug, right? It's whether it's a roach, a silverfish, it's a bed bug. That's what they're going to say. So as the staff, you have the power to educate, to say, no, this is what a bed bug looks like. This is what they do. They're saying they're where we don't want them feeding on us, obviously, but they don't carry any kind of disease, and that you as the go-between between them and the pest control provider, you understand that like you're able to make sure that there's a comprehensive plan in place to say, hey, we're not, we're not going to let this just slide under the, you're not going to sweep it under the rug. We're going to make sure that the problem is addressed. We're going to make sure that we're going to continue to follow up on the problem to make sure that it's resolved. And again, that's what I think people, it gets out of hand because it's addressed one time and then it gets forgotten about because other life happens, people move on, you do other things, and maybe they're suppressed by a treatment, but then they can come back with a vengeance almost. So that follow up to say, hey, we're going to continue, just like what Mr. Doug was talking about, having a regular inspection, whether it's once a year, once every 6 months, having someone dedicated to go through and say, hey, we've looked at this. And even if it's not all the units, even if you're just going back through the units that have had a problem in the past, to say, yeah, you're still clear. You're still, the treatment, has worked. You haven't reinfested. There hasn't been a resurgence. So being, number one, educated about what bed bugs are and what they're not, I think is going to be the biggest thing in controlling misconceptions and fear. And then number two, that the follow-up inspection to say, hey, there's a professional here that they're gonna be able to look at this and see if there still is an issue. Once that issue has been taken care of, they're not going to resurrect. They're once the bed bugs have been taken care of, and you're sure you've done follow-up inspections to make sure that the person's not getting bitten. There's no more signs of bed bugs. You haven't found any more calf skins or live bed bugs, that kind of thing. That the people can resume life as normal. Like, you don't have to live in fear that, just because you had bed bugs at one point, that doesn't make you any more susceptible to them in the future. And that really, you're probably better off, you're more prepared knowing now what you're looking for to prevent them. So when you go on vacation, you know what to look for on your suitcase. When you go out and sit in a restaurant or a movie theater, you know what to look for on your clothing when you get home, and that kind of and really just encouraging things like regularly washing your sheets. If you brought something home and you had a bed bug, there's no telling how many infestations have been stopped because someone just washed their bed sheets. That bug was on their sheets, and we brought them to the washer and dryer, took care of the problem before it ever got started. So yeah, that's again, education and being actively involved in inspection.
Great. Thanks, Alex.
Yep.
Any other questions for Alex before we hear from Dawn? Okay, great. Well, Dawn, we will hand things over to you to share your story.
Sarah, I'm sorry. It's Janet Simmons. I do have one question.
Oh, sure, please.
Yes, for Alex. I got on late, but I used to be the bedbug queen at one point because I had so many infestations. But I'm wondering if a resident sees, after being treated, and a resident sees a bed bug crawling up the wall or something. I understand that you can use a bottle of isopropyl alcohol and just spray them and it kills them instantly. Does that still work?
Yeah, and so that's what I don't know if we were talking about a comprehensive deal there. So spot treatment for bed bugs and adulticides, whether it's isopropyl alcohol or Bangle out of a can, or just a chemical that you get from the store. There's a lot of stuff that kills bed bugs on the spot. But the main thing for, if you have a pest control professional doing a treatment for you, I would, if you can let them handle that, they should have a procedure in place for their post inspection. And so to say, if it's already been treated and there's still bed bugs, hey, what's the, get with them and find out, hey, what's the time frame that you're going to come back out and look at this apartment and determine if there's still active bed bugs. If we find bed bugs, what's the soonest that you can come back out, retreat? What's your comprehensive, is there a warranty behind this? And so if you're working with someone that won't warranty their work, that's always a little dangerous. But so if you can find you a pest control provider that when that first initial treatment is done, that can say, hey, we're with you until this bed bug job, or, until the bed bugs are confirmed that they're no longer in this apartment. And that's a part of what we do. I don't think I actually mentioned this, but we include a warranty with the bed bug jobs that we do. So it's a 90-day warranty that if any live bed bugs that are found during that time is covered under that initial invoice. So what that's going to do is encourage whoever's doing the job, the technician that's doing the job, to do the best job they can do right off the bat. Because obviously, if we're having to come back out for free, it's affecting our bottom line. And then number two, it gives the resident confidence that no matter what happens, we're going to be with them until the bed bugs are completely gone. And that warranty does roll. So if we come back out at the 60-day mark, that warranty starts over from that time. It's a rolling warranty, and so it's our goal to, with the post inspection, with the treatment and post inspection, to make sure that the problem has been completely resolved. So if you treat and then 20 days later, 3 weeks later, let's say you're finding live bed bugs in the apartment still, well, hey, we need to get that pest professional that, with his comprehensive plan back into that unit to say, okay, maybe this is what was missed. Maybe this is something else that we could try, so on and so forth, to where, again, a bed bug reinfestation can happen from just one egg, one bed bug. So if you're still seeing live bed bugs after treatment, hey, we need to reevaluate our plan and see what's the next step to taking care of this apartment.
I had a follow-up question just about the alcohol piece. We use that for the offices just as a preventative because people come in and out. We don't really know who has bed bugs and who doesn't. I think when we know, it's kind of more obvious. We keep them isolated, but we're more worried about people we don't know who have it. And so we usually use alcohol just on the chairs and kind of main spaces. Is that effective, or is that just making us feel good?
So it's effective in the moment that you spray it. So if, let's say, they came in and dropped a bed bug in a chair, if they got up and you immediately came behind them and sprayed it, and that alcohol came in contact with the bed bug, it will kill the bed bug. The downside of using something like that is if the bed bug is not sprayed with the alcohol and the alcohol evaporates, there's no residual for that. So you'd have to use something labeled as a residual chemical. And again, so the thing I'm going to add about the myco-insecticide to the comments or to the chat, you'll be able to see it's actually marketed #1 as a preventative. So you can put it down every 90 days, I believe, and those spores stay active. And so what happens, you could treat the office one time. Anybody that comes down, you don't have to worry about treating it every time someone gets up, or sits down in that chair and gets up, that kind of thing. So yes, the alcohol works to a point.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then just a follow-up question to that. I'm not sure if the company that we use has this micro solution, and I will ask. If they don't, do you think that doing a preventative once a month, treat the offices with the chemicals, is there a downside to that? We're all terrified that we're going to bring this home with us because someone in the office will. So.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's a valid concern, but so the thing that you have to balance with doing a treatment like that once a month is what chemicals are you using, and that's part of integrated pest management is your chemical exposure. So the more that you're exposing yourself to stuff, the more you're putting yourself at risk. And it's a balance, right? So as a pest control provider, I understand that chemicals are vital to what we do, and we can't not spray them. They're a tool in our tool bag. And so to say we're never going to spray any chemicals again, and there are people that try to do stuff like that, unfortunately it's just not going to be effective. There are going to be situations where it's a necessity at this point. I'm not going to say that in the future they won't come up with some other method that we don't need it anymore, but there are just situations across pest control in general that you need chemicals. And so I'm not saying never use a chemical again. But when you're talking about doing a preventative bed bug treatment once a month, a lot of that stuff is going to be more invasive and more harsh chemicals that you have to evaluate with your pest control provider. If what's safe and effective and reasonable for that situation. So if he has, if your company that has access to uh, a myco insecticide, then that's what I would recommend. If you're wanting to apply it regularly, if they have access to residual that's labeled as a preventative chemical that says it's safe to put down once a month, then that's fine. But it's really, that's what I was talking about. Taking everything as like a case by case. There's no one solution fits all for treating bed bugs, and you have to look at each individual situation and say, how does this fit into the plan that we're making for our building, for our office, for our staff, and for our residents? To say, this is how we treat infestations. This is how we're going to treat education. This is how we're going to treat prevention, uh, and coming up with an effective way to all be, for your building to be on the same page, where your pest control provider, your management, and your residents are all on the same page, and everybody understands, like, hey, this is, bed bugs can be a problem, but we're not going to let them run the place.
Hi, good afternoon. I just had a quick question. I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but thank you. This is great information too. I've always been told that it takes about 3 weeks for the chemical to take effect on the bugs. So during that time, you may still see some live ones crawling around. Does that sound correct? And
So it does depend on the chemicals that you're using, but so if you're using an adulticide in the mix of stuff that you're treating with, so that if you're doing a chemical application and in that application there's an adulticide, that's generally effective immediate. Anything that stuff touches right then and there, it's going to die. Depending on the residual that's mixed into your chemical solution, it could be, that's going to stay effective for as long as bed bugs continue to come out, up to generally 90 days is the controlled release for those kind of bugs. But in terms of, to say like, but it's going to take 3 weeks and then you're not going to see any more bugs, that it's, again, situation by situation. I have done, personally, we've done about 6,000 bed bug jobs at this point here in New Orleans. And again, for a company of 2 at the time, we were impressed with that. We do have a couple other guys that are with us now. We're running 5 trucks now, but at the time, that's, we were doing 2 and 3 jobs a day. And there are some that you see go in and treat one time, and when the resident comes back after 4 hours for like a chemical treatment, is out, back up after our exclusion time from the apartment is a 4-hour window after we treat. So when we treat, the resident has to be gone for 4 hours, and then they can come back in once that chemical is settled down, because we're using an atomizing process where you won't be able to breathe in there until that stuff is precipitated out of the air. And so what we've done some where they come back in after that 4-hour window and never see another bug again. Done some where at the 2-week inspection, you go back in and there's still bugs crawling. There's some that we go back at 2 weeks and don't find any bugs. And then 2 weeks later, a bug pops up. And because they're so incredibly adapted to hiding, it'd be a fool's errand to say like you could find every crack and crevice. Obviously, that's our goal, but there are just going to be cases where that's just not the case. And so with something like a residual chemical, the bug has to come out and crawl through it. So you might see a bug come out a month from treatment time and crawl through that residual chemical and say, there's still live bugs in here. But he just got into the residual chemical, and that bug may die within the next 6 hours. And then, but again, like that notification and inspection, like after the fact, to say, hey, we're still seeing live bed bugs. We need to get in here and look at that. At 3 weeks, if it was 3 weeks post-treatment and I was still seeing live bed bugs, I would recommend somebody coming back in and taking another look to see what was going on.
okay, great. Thank you.
Great questions, everyone. Thank you so much for asking, for your engagement, and certainly continue to put questions in the chat as well. Dawn, I want to give you an opportunity, a few moments just to share, to kind of end our time together today. So would love to hear from you.
Hello.
There you go. We can hear you.
All right. So, our first finding with bed bugs was about 9 years ago, and we did do different treatments. If we found bed bugs in an apartment, we would end up treating non-apartments, and at that point, we would take everything out of the apartment and put them in a storage area for treatment. Well, as the bed bugs evolved around, we realized it was impossible for us to do that process all the time. We learned how to build heat boxes and to treat units with heat or chemicals. We done different things, because sometimes you would find bed bugs in one apartment and they would move to the apartment above or the apartment to the next apartment on the side of it. So that's why we were treating non-units at a time. But it wasn't successful. We were not keeping it under control at that point. So when we started using Paramount, Alex's company, we found that we were having much more success with educating and re-inspections as he started. As he said, so it worked for us. Bed bugs were not moving around, and we were not having to treat non-units at a time. We were just having to treat that one apartment. And we're a large community, so we have 451 units here. So we still see bed bugs, but it's no way on the level that it was when we first started treating bed bugs. Like Alex said, we are not finding them in the other units. We're finding them if it's just that one unit reporting it. And we've helped them. We've helped our residents pack up their clothing. We'll give them large garbage bags. We'll give them coins, money to go take all their stuff to the laundry facility to wash it. So every little bit that we can do, we try to help them. But of course, they'll have family members that'll come help them do the laundry and all the different things like that. But um, you know, re-inspecting it is very important. We check all of our apartments twice a year. We do two inspections, and that's part of our inspection that we do on our annual inspection. And every 6 months, we go in each apartment and do a physical inspection that includes looking at the bed and checking for bed bugs as well. We all have a little bit knowledge about bed bugs, so it helps us to keep a look on it. And sometimes, we have to get them back out here to respray. We do have people, we call them collectors here. Their apartments are more full than a normal person. And those sometimes are the ones that have to get a little bit extra treatment because they may have, a lot more stuff than the normal person would in their apartment. And a lot of times we can get the family members to come in and declutter them. And it's so much better because we don't have to drag everything down to put in a storage and treat it with heat or whatever. It's not the bugs aren't moving with their furniture or items through the elevators or the building. So it definitely works better doing the preventative measures for us. We give our residents a flyer. It's Stop Bed Bugs Safely, and we educate them. We every year we give this stuff out to them, letting them know about it, and we ask them to not visit other apartments as much as they can during the treatment process. So together, we all have to work together to kind of deal with this issue when we have it. But it works for us, and we're very pleased with how Paramount is assisting us with this.
Great. Thank you so much, Dawn, for sharing your experience. And I know many folks have shared their experience today. So thank you so much for your vulnerability and just sharing. Are there any other, I know we have 3 minutes left. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns, celebrations, grievances around this topic today?
It's not that really bad of a situation if we treat it correctly, if we all work together, with the resident, the family, staff, the pest control company. If we all put our hands in there and help and do everything that we can do, it's really not that bad of a situation for us that we find.
Thanks, Dawn. And thank you so much, Alex, for your expertise today and putting your contact information in the chat. We'll share this recording with all of you and the rest of the folks that have registered for this call. Again, we meet on the third Wednesday of every month at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Next month for August, our topic is going to be igniting the spark, empowering older adults to volunteer. So would love for you all to come with stories and questions to share around residents that are volunteering within your community. How do we encourage residents to volunteer? Where should we encourage them to volunteer within the community? So looking forward to that conversation next month. And then, as always, please feel free to email me with topics that you all have that you'd like to hear about, or speakers that you would like to hear from. Would love for any of you on this call as well to share and to lead a month with a topic of your expertise as well. So feel free to email me anytime. My email address is in the chat. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. I hope you have a great rest of the summer. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.